Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about the 2020 to 2022 North Node in Gemini transit part 2. Now, as many of you may know, the North Node is going to enter Gemini. I'm talking about the true node, of course, May 5th, 2020, and will reside there until January 18th, 2022. In this part 2 segment, I want to talk about the importance of this in terms of like aspects it may make to your chart, because of course that could impact that delineation and interpretation for you during that time. And the thing about it is, like in my case, this is going to later on in the transit, it is at some point in the transit, it will be conjunct my natal moon in Gemini. And of course, if you have this transit making a conjunction to your sun, moon, or ascendant, it could really be very intensified and be very important. So it might be a significant moment for you. Now, the fact that when it does this to me, when it makes that contact with my moon in Gemini, this could be about manifesting, confronting issues, maybe unconsciously, since we're talking about the moon dissipating the self through lack of an integrating purpose. Perhaps maybe it's time where maybe it's more about dealing with issues as far as doing too many things. Too much disbursement of energy, basically not concentrating on one particular matter. It could be also it could be dealing with issues like, because you're talking about the moon in astrology can be about our family. It could be also about dominant women in one's life scheme, the mother, and it might be where I have to deal with some mercurial people that are associated with this at this time. Maybe some dominant woman, or dominant woman in my life, where somebody's just very mercurial, very fickle. Sometimes, I mean, it could actually, in some cases, be an actual Gemini sun, moon, or ascendant person, or simply embody those characteristics. And the thing about this too, and it could also be certain emotional needs that could be Gemini related. It might have something to do with some kind of communications, or just doing, or maybe doing something like as far as with the hands, which I can't really do much because I have irrevocable nerve damage. But there might be something that could be Gemini related, and might be matters with short journeys that might have to be addressed. As an example, anything that could be Gemini related, assimilating certain kind of information. And also too, I mean, it's going to be more impactful because it's going to be in my first house of self. So anyway, now only main thing I want to get at is some aspects that it's going to make electionally, some significant points, I believe, in terms of this transit. Now, excuse me, on June 20th, 2020, it's going to make an exact conjunction to the sun in Gemini at this time at 29 degrees. This could be, and this is a relatively early part of the transit. Of course, it's about 6 weeks into the transit. But when we're looking at this, many of you may know about this, of course. I mean, it's really hard not to know. You'd almost have to be oblivious not to know about what's going on with this coronavirus pandemic. Now, the thing about this is you're gonna have the sun in Gemini 29 degrees at an exact conjunction to the North Node in Gemini, and this could be a very significant electional aspect in transit, because you're talking about 29 degrees, of course, a critical degree. You're talking about the sun and the North Node. The sun can be about the physical body, the vitality. 29 degrees can represent an end in astrology. Of course, the North Node could be about one's destiny and future. You put all that together. This may manifest in some cases at the end, perhaps of maybe some breathing issues, that are connected with the physical body, something with the lungs, the respiratory system. These all are Gemini related things, and these can be symptoms that are associated with the coronavirus. I do believe this could be a time where many may see these things come to an end, and it might be a lot of an exorbitant amount of recoveries at this point in time. That is one way this could be very significant. And the fact it's making the conjunction to the North Node, this is about the future. This is about where one can now focus on the future. Of course, the sun can be associated with our focus. The North Node can be connected with one's future, and perhaps do so with a lot of spirited and vivacious Gemini energy. Remember, it's 29 degrees. 29 degrees in astrology can represent the full, at least I see, as the full culmination of the zodiac sign. So it could be abundance of this time. It could be very auspicious time, I believe. But anyway, well then, and then the next day, what's interesting is that it's gonna be followed up with a solar eclipse in Cancer at 0 degrees. And what makes that significant, a lot of times when you have endings of things, talking about again the sun in Gemini conjunct the North Node in Gemini 29 degrees, a lot of times endings signify new beginnings. The thing about this is, I talked about this in a previous video, that on that day we have that solar eclipse in Cancer. It's going to be fairly close proximity to the United States natal Jupiter in the 7th house of competition. This could be a time where people may go out, and it might be as far as Major League Baseball for the United States may resume around this time. Because from a solar eclipse in astrology, I mean, can be about beginnings. You're talking about an basically amplified, intensified new moon energy. And the fact that it's in Cancer, it may be a little bit more of an introverted manner. And the fact is, many of you heard of renowned Dr. Fauci, and he's been basically, I guess he's like an expert on this coronavirus and I guess viruses, diseases, what have you. He speculated that what could happen is Major League Baseball may resume later this year, but it would be done in a with restrictions and stipulations, not having fans in the stands. Cancerian energy could be very introverted. You have this making very pretty close proximity to the United States natal Jupiter. Jupiter could be about sports, and also Cancer can be very introverted energy, so we could do the math. So again, that is how that might manifest and pan out at that time. I could see it resuming around that time, perhaps, but again, with those restrictions and stipulations. Now, there's going to be another significant point I see as far as this transit of the North Node in Gemini goes, and it'll be making an exact opposition to the Sun in Sagittarius on December 11th, 2020. And it's going to be, and the Sun in Sagittarius, North Node in Gemini will both be squared by Neptune in Pisces. And of course, this is a mutable T-square configuration. Now, mutable T-squares configurations in astrology can be, I mean, you're talking about T-squares in general can have a lot of obstructions and obstacles and resistance and conflicts. Sources that it could be very frustrating, sources of consternation, frustration. But being in mutable energy, it could also give a lot of anxiety and worry, anxiousness, really people being, very frazzled, worrisome energy. But the thing about this, though, is the way this may manifest sometimes very interesting. The Sun in Sagittarius, of course, making the opposition to the North Node in Sagittarius is adversarial. Sun in astrology can be the father. It may be a dominant male figure that in people that being in Sagittarius have a certain view on higher education. You're going to have that opposing the North Node in Gemini. The North Node in Gemini, as far as the future goes, can be about things that are more about street savviness, being more shrewd, surviving more on street skills as opposed to higher education. I think there could be a very strong opposition at this time regarding these issues. And you have the Neptune in Pisces, of course, making the square to both points. And the focal point of a T-square, of course, can be about over-accentuation, over-emphasis. It's that, and it can be, in this case, given it's Neptune in Pisces, maybe people, the fact that there might be like this tug of war that's going on between the Sun and Sagittarius, North Node and Gemini energy, people might be trying to reconcile this through the Neptune and Pisces energy. And that could be about really doing things where people might be very delusional and idealistic, thinking they might be able to light the candle on both ends where it may not really be possible or attainable. You might see people going to fallacious prophets and psychics in order to resolve issues, trying to direct them where to go. And Neptune energy, of course, could be very delusional and be about self-deception as well. So you have to be guarding against that. And the thing about it is you have the North Node and Gemini energy could be really very youthful. And again, trying to stay with maybe some street savviness or street smarts at this time, going against perhaps, as far as the Sun and Sagittarius goes, that want for higher education, through getting, assimilating knowledge through books, through college, those kind of things. And the thing about it is, the point of alleviation at this time, of course, is the point opposite the focal point in the mutable T-square configuration, and that, of course, would be Virgo. Now, Virgo, I mean, this could be simply where people may need to just kind of sit down and analyze and try to extrapolate the future and see what they think is going to work for them as far as their analysis. It's going to more analysis as opposed to perhaps this Neptune Pisces more intuition. So those are some ways that this could manifest and pan out for others. So anyway, for people in general. Anyway, people, that will conclude this YouTube astrological segment. Until next time, people, Edwin Learnard saying stay well.